South Africa has been rocked by another week of student protests, this time with KwaZulu-Natal as the hotspot. Police and Mangosuthu University of Technology students clashed during those demonstrations. The students in Umlazi have been demanding that historical debt and financial exclusions be scrapped. Similar demonstrations occurred at other campuses weeks ago with a threat of a national shutdown by students. Let's discuss developments then with the Chairperson of Parliament's Higher Education Committee, Mapulane, who's joining us by Skype, I believe. A very good evening to you, sir. Grateful for your time. So you've officially this week expressed concern over the situation at Durban University of Technology, where in-person registrations had to be suspended. That was after thousands of students, in fact, turned up, apparently because of a hoax message. And then we saw the problems at Mangosuthu University. How worried are you as a portfolio committee about what's happening in higher education currently?
Good evening, Thembekile and your viewers. We are very worried about what is happening currently in higher education. We thought that the situation was stabilizing after the national shutdown that was called for by SAUS. Now, the developments in Durban at DUT and MUT are very concerning to us. And that's why we've issued a call to the student leadership together with management to sit around the table and engage in a dialogue in order to resolve these challenges that we're experiencing.
You talk of resolving challenges, Mr. Mapulane, but how can those challenges be resolved when the big challenge requires money that the government and universities say they simply don't have to give students what they're demanding?
Yes, the big elephant in the room, Thembekile, is the issue of the debt, the historic debt that the universities are being owed, together with the question of the missing middle. Those are the big issues which currently, as we speak, there is no policy position. What we have been informed by the Minister of Higher Education is that Cabinet has requested that there must be a proposal that must be tabled before Cabinet before the end of June, so that these two big issues can be tackled head on and solutions can be found, because there continue to be challenges that are facing the students in higher education. You know that the issue of funding of NSFAS students has been addressed. The shortfall of 6.7 billion has been identified and reallocated by government. And the NSFAS students, the funding decisions has been made known, the students are registering. But the big question is that the universities are owed a lot of money. Currently it's estimated at around 14 billion. And there's the money that the universities are employing mechanism to recoup this money, one of which is to say that students must pay part of what they are owing before they can register, which sometimes poses serious problems.
Was it wrong then for the former president and the ANC government, we should say, to make a pronouncement, I think it was 2017, that free higher education would now be made possible for the poor and missing middle students in the country, even though there had been a commission report that said it simply wasn't feasible? Was that wrong?
It wasn't wrong, Thembekile. As you know, that the ruling party in its conference in December in Nasrec welcomed that announcement and in fact developed a policy position to say students from working class background and the poor will be allowed to study for free at higher education institutions, including TVET colleges. So that is the policy position of government. Sufficient allocation has been made for that. All the NSFAS qualifying students are allowed to register their studying at universities. We know that the Hare Commission had come up with different recommendations, but those have been overtaken by developments. So we have welcomed the announcement by the former President Zuma, adopted by government, embraced by the ruling party. We also welcome it, but this is not the challenge as we speak at Thembekile. As I say, the challenges are with the missing middle. The challenges are with the money that is being owed by the students, which is a historic debt.
But Mr. Mapulane, apologies for interrupting you, but these were the very issues when Fees Must Fall was born in the country about 4 to 5 years ago. There was the issue of historic debt. There was the issue of the so-called missing middle. That was a large part of the problems then, and the commitment that was made at the time was that government would address it, and yet we sit here now in 2021 still having the same conversation. So there's clearly been a failure by the ANC government.
Well, I agree with you, Thembekile. Those were the issues. But as you remember, that the big issue was that the students who are from poor and working class backgrounds must be allowed to study for free. And that call that was made during the Fees Must Fall campaign has been met by government. All the students from the working class background, irrespective of whether they are owing or not, they are being admitted at institutions if they do qualify. So that is not the issue currently that we are facing. I know that that is one of the issues that was raised around the missing middle. As we speak, government has not been able to resolve, to come up with a policy position that accommodates this, and hence the instruction by Cabinet to the Minister of Higher Education to come up with the proposals before the end of June.
And I'm saying to you, sir, that the fact that there is no plan at this point that addresses the issue holistically is indeed a failure, because 20 years ago there were still people who were A, too poor to get a loan with the bank, and B, considered to have too much of an income in their households to qualify for NSFAS at the time. So there's been more than enough time for government to come up with an actual holistic plan.
Well, Thembekile, you would also appreciate that government would not be able to fund all the students at higher education institution because there is no sufficient funds for it. Government has got a basic policy of assisting the poor and the working class. You'd remember even in the allocation of houses, there is a set criteria that is there which targets the poor, which targets the working class. So this issue of the missing middle is one of the issues which requires to be attended to. Government is attending to it. Yes, we must admit that it is taking time for government to resolve the issue, but at least we have got a deadline of the end of June in which Cabinet will be finalizing the matter.
Okay.
So let's look forward to that and take it from the discussions of Cabinet.
Philly Mapulane, good to speak to you, sir, Chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Higher Education. This